All right, now.
FFWD isn't working. What's that? Look, it looks like it was a double top, boys. Just saying. Looks like a double top to me. What's up, everybody? It's Blind Run, aka Matthew in real life. Hope everybody's doing good today. We stream every day. That's the way it goes. I'm a little late today, but you know, gotta do dad stuff, making dinner, whatnot, all that sort of thing. Also, I felt like taking a nap after work, so actually, I've been lazy. I'll be honest. So obviously, the markets are not doing too swell today, with Bitcoin going down to $103,000. Lots of unrest. Apparently, this is partially due to some macroeconomic factors and fears. I know Nakudo asked in chat, we watched an Israel bomb Iran live. So I was like, what's happening? So I figured we watch this real quick and see see what's going on. I just got out of a nap, brother. I don't even know what's going on in the world, as if it even matters, but let's see.
Out to the Middle East, where U.S. officials are taking preemptive measures after Israel warned it is considering a strike on Iran. Multiple sources tell CBS News Israel is fully ready. Iran has warned such an attack could lead to possible retaliation on U.S. bases in neighboring Iraq and other countries.
So as Israel does something and Iran threatens the U.S., why do we live in this weird world?
And I want to bring in CBS News intelligence and national security reporter Olivia Gazis, who is live at the State Department. Olivia, good to see you. What's the latest intel on this threat?
Good morning, Tom. Well, concerns about the possibility of an Israeli strike have been percolating for a while, with Israeli officials arguing that now is the time to strike Iran's nuclear program in its weakened state with its proxies effectively eroded. Things took a more dramatic turn yesterday as the U.S. began ordering its military and diplomatic personnel stationed in the region to move away out of concerns that an Israeli strike could trigger
I think that is the best decision we could make. Hey, there's these two countries that are going to be getting into a war with each other. How about we move all of our troops out and not be a part of it? You know what I mean? It's like you're at a bar and two guys you don't know are getting into a fight. Just leave. Just get out of there. You don't even really like those dudes. Let them beat each other up.
Iranian retaliation, as you said, on U.S. personnel stationed there. Embassy Baghdad is the biggest military and diplomatic outpost we have, but there's also personnel stationed in Kuwait, in Bahrain, and we're awaiting to see whether there's additional movements ordered there. Typically, the State Department likes these things to be done in private to make sure that people can get to safety, they get where they want to go before any sort of public announcements are made. There is some thinking that the overt way in which...
It says Iraq on June 11th, the Department of State ordered the departure of non-emergency U.S. government personnel due to heightened regional tensions. As a reminder, the travel advisory for Iraq is level 4, do not travel. Do not travel to Iraq due to terrorism, kidnapping, armed conflict, civil unrest, and the U.S. government's limited ability to provide emergency services to U.S. citizens in Iraq.
All of this has been happening is so that the U.S. can send a signal to all interested parties in the region about the stakes of a strike and potentially forestall military action. But we are very much in a wait-and-see moment right now.
Yeah, so Olivia, you mentioned that the U.S. is moving non-essential personnel from the embassy in Baghdad. What else are they doing in the event that things escalate?
Well, interestingly, they are maintaining diplomatic channels open with Iran. CBS News is told that Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is expected to travel overseas to Oman for a 6th round of nuclear talks with Iranian negotiators this weekend. This is coming as...
Do you guys believe Iran has, like, nuclear capabilities at all, even? Sometimes I just doubt it.
The UN watchdog in Vienna, the IAEA, this morning formally deemed Iran to be non-compliant with its non-proliferation obligations, and that opens the door to snapback UN sanctions that Iran is vociferously protesting, calling the IAEA's move political and biased, and all of it adding to the very complex diplomatic picture that negotiators are entering.
So has Israel already attacked Iran?
Entering into, all overshadowed, of course.
Hold on. So this was like them talking and threatening. I couldn't see any... actual... I thought they're just ready. No, I'm still not seeing any actual latest news.
This potential specter of military strikes.
Olivia Gazis, following this tense situation from the State Department. Olivia, thank you for that analysis. And for more on this, let's bring in CBS News national security contributor Samantha Vinograd. Sam, good to see you. You've got deep background in this arena. Iran may be actively negotiating with the U.S., but it's also just tested
America number one.
A missile with a 2-ton warhead recently. So what do we know about the extent of the threat they pose in the region?
Well, we certainly know that Iran is trying to show the world that it still has leverage in these negotiations. So this missile test certainly does not come as a surprise. As we think about the Iranian threat to U.S. national security interests, we know that Iran has the largest ballistic missile stockpile in the Middle East. Iran has used those ballistic missiles against Israel and against other targets that the U.S.
Doesn't the Iron Dome pretty much take care of all that, though?
deems off limits and critical in the past. In addition to ballistic missiles, of course, Iran also has its rapidly advancing nuclear program. Now, the UN nuclear watchdog, the international.
I love how it's like rapidly advancing nuclear program. That shows this prop plane painted green.
Nuclear program. Now, the UN nuclear watchdog, the IAEA.
That's a drone right there, right? Was the green one just a massive drone?
With its obligations, and that Iran has enough enriched uranium, that's weapons grade material.
Maybe I was wrong. I think the green one was a drone.
Almost weapons grade material for several nuclear warheads if it decides to go for a bomb. So it poses a potential nuclear threat, a ballistic missile threat, and then Iran also poses a significant cyber threat to U.S. interests. So if things do go south, if Israel does strike.
No way. Iran doesn't pose a cyber threat over, like, I don't know, China or something. Like, there's no way, dude. You really think Iran has a significant capability of cyber threats at this point?
Iran, and Iran believes that the United States played a role.
Iron Dome has already proven that it's not capable of a sustained attack. Well, it's capable of sucking up all my tax dollars.
Could seek to deploy any of those levers against U.S. interests.
I want to dig into the nuclear concerns here, Sam, because Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth testified on Capitol Hill about Iran's nuclear program yesterday, but we also heard both he and the president have been presented with options to stop it. You mentioned that they have weapons-grade uranium. What more do we know?
Well, Iran has for years been advancing its nuclear program. I worked under Bush, Obama, and Biden on various matters related to Iran policy, and Iran has
fire this woman. She's worked under Bush, Obama, and Biden, and this like fire this woman, dude.
For many years. What Iran has right now is uranium that is close to weapons grade. It is so close that it would take a matter of weeks for Iran to make the jump from what it currently has to weapons grade uranium. From there,
whatever she's doing isn't working.
It would have to make a decision to actually build a nuclear weapon, and to build a nuclear weapon that could actually be operational and be deployed. It's not a given that Iran will make that decision or that Iran would be able to do that. However, Tom, it is very worrisome that Iran has such a large stockpile of almost weapons grade uranium, because then what we call its breakout time.
But the U.S. perspective, pure crypto boss, is the perspective that's affecting the markets today, right? I mean, like, at the end of the day, the U.S. currency is the reserve currency of the world, and the perspective of the U.S. is what drives the market.
To actually getting weapons grade uranium and potentially,
which is the only reason we're watching it on this channel in the first place.
So much shorter than if it did not have that stockpile.
And thank you for clarifying there, Sam. I should obviously say Iran is close to weapons grade. They do not have that yet, as far as we know.
Not yet.
So you know, this is a geopolitical flashpoint. It's a huge concern for the Middle East. The world is watching. What could the ripple effect of an Israeli strike on Iran be from a diplomatic perspective, Sam?
Well, Iran is the largest state sponsor of terror in the world, and Iran has proxies throughout the Middle East and, frankly, throughout the world. So one ripple effect if Israel does strike Iran is that Iran could activate its proxies in the Middle East and around the world against U.S.
I have Middle East fatigue.
And Israeli targets. I served in Iraq 2007 to 2008. Iranian-backed proxies were very, very, very active against the United States and shot missiles and rockets at us all the time. So Iran could activate those proxies. That's why I think we've seen a drawdown in personnel in the Middle East. Could also certainly activate ballistic missiles as well.
A development that certainly will have ripple effects.
I mean, to your point, Snake, like I'm saying, draw them down. It sounds like we're doing the right thing, which is getting troops out of the area. And we do need to bring them back. We need to focus on the border and everything going on in California, et cetera. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what needs to be happening, especially if our markets are hurting, because, I mean, whether we like to admit it or not, California drives the tech industry, right?
In the event that there is an escalation. Samantha Vinograd, we appreciate your time and insight. Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, I don't see any attacks yet, but this is going on, and then obviously Bitcoin's responding extremely negatively. It's kind of recovered a little bit from 103 to 104,000, so there is that, but it's down 4% over the day. Funniest news, though, of course, is Picoin is down massively right now, almost 20% over the past 24 hours. It's down to 50 cents. I think he even went down to 40 cents for a little bit. I kind of said at one point, anytime Picoin goes over $1, I'm going to short it. So, we started that back then. That seemed to have played out nicely. So, good call on my part, I'd say. We also have a ton of unlocks coming for Picoin up in July here. So pretty soon, Pi is going to have an immense amount of sell pressure as more of its supply unlocks, and they reduce the fees for, early unlocking, because currently there's a lot of fees involved in burning that goes on with early unlocking. That being said, the Pi community is claiming that each coin is going to be worth $314,159 based on the global consensus value. If you want to hear as much cope as you possibly can, the Pi network user base expanded rapidly. The GCV vision has gained traction among early adopters and Pi pioneers. At the heart of this effort are GCV ambassadors or community advocates working to promote a fixed value inspired by the mathematical constant of Pi. The suggested price point is $314,159. Is viewed by supporters as a symbolic anchor for belief, unity, and ecosystem credibility. While this valuation is community-led and not officially recognized, it represents a growing grassroots movement within the Pi network ecosystem. If you wanted to run into the most delusional people on the internet, I guess join the Pi community. Just to give you guys some background on that, currently the circulating supply is $7.43 billion, billion Pi, excuse me. But the total supply at the end of the day is going to be 100 billion. Just to give you an idea right now, like the fully diluted values at 52.49 billion. If we compare that to the rest of the top 100 cryptocurrencies, you're at, what is this? 1 million, 2 million, or 1 million, or 1 million, 1 billion, 2 trillion for Bitcoin. But you have 300 billion for Ethereum. You got XRP at 100 billion. You got BNB at 91 billion. Solana at 76 billion. And then Dogecoin even is only at 26 billion. So you expect me to believe that this cryptocurrency is going to be, worth, fully diluted value of 52 billion. It's just unrealistic at the end of the day. And then you want to take it from 50 cents to $314,000 when Bitcoin's only at 100K and struggling to stay above it? Yeah, not happening, dude. Not happening at all. Now, people are expecting the price to go up on Pi Day. Maybe there will be enough of a push to bring the price of Picoin up on Pi Day, just from marketing, etc. And a majority of the unlocks still will not have been being executed at that point. But I think once we start seeing more of those unlocks here in July, it's just going to get worse and worse. So maybe we see a little bit of a pump up coming on July 28th, 2025. I mean, as you are aware, there are a ton of people participating within the Pi network. So there is, a lot of public sentiment surrounding it, a lot of copium, a lot of hopium, a lot of people trying to invest in the project and trying to keep the price inflated as much as possible. Always be wary of communities and community members trying to convince you to purchase something, though. I've already gone in depth as to the, multi-level marketing strategies Pi has executed, the fact that their consensus mechanism is not true proof of work, and a bunch of other red flags in previous videos. So you can go check that out if you're interested in that. And Pure Crypto Boss says, I didn't do Pi because every KOL was pushing it. I mean, it is one of those things too, where like Pi is the epitome of like multi-level marketing, in the fact that like the earlier you get in and the more influence you have over other people and the market, the more money you're going to make. And that just has always been, you know, a recipe for disaster. Whether we're talking about Pi or we're talking about, you know, BitConnect, or we're talking about anything in the likes, right? So I think it's smart to be, it's funny, but it is smart. I will say, I think it's smart of you to be, you know, suspicious whenever you start seeing a lot of KOLs, key opinion leaders, for those that are not in the know yet, influencers, aka influencers, crypto influencers specifically, promoting any particular project. There should be a red flag. I mean, we've seen it over and over and over again, whether it be the BitBoy Crypto, the altcoin dailies, or the, you know, go all the way back to Trayvon James. Anytime you see somebody with a significant following pushing a cryptocurrency, it usually ends poorly for everybody that follows along, right? I mean, and I think that's been proven time and time again here recently. Even if you're looking at something, you know, released with the name of the US president on it, that was actually endorsed by the US president, if you come along behind that, you're probably going to get hurt, right? And that is just what it is. At the end of the day, not a big fan of all that stuff. So apparently Coinbase, by the way, is going to be releasing a one card. So a new credit card or debit card. You can get a Coinbase debit card as it is now. Crypto.com has one as well. This one's going to be apparently, I guess, a new product, a new financial product offered by Coinbase, and it's going to be powered by the American Express network, and you're going to get 4% Bitcoin back on every purchase. You know, a lot of the jokes going on here is like, well, I get 4% back and have 30, you know, pay 30% in interest. It's sad to see this stuff because we're still in this world where people are participating within crypto in this roundabout way that still, you know, goes through third parties, when the entire point from the very get-go was to eliminate third parties, you know. And I'm not a big fan of this type of thing. I think obviously credit cards are the devil, and I think we need to really, if we wanted to regulate anything or start regulating anything or over-regulate anything in the United States right now, regulating credit card companies by far should be like the number one thing that we look at. They trick young people. They put them into debt for, you know, the remainder of their lifetime. And it's just not right, right? I could say we could solve that. There is like the personal responsibility aspect. We could solve that with education. Sure. I think that is, I get that argument as well. You know, I'm just saying, if we were going to regulate anything, like, dear Lord, can we regulate this in healthcare, if anything, at the end of the day? So, I mean, keep an eye on this. Apparently there will be rewards in particular, and and we'll have to see where it goes. This just screams to me, you know, Coinbase's strategy to steal more Bitcoin from you at the end of the day. Even if they are offering, you know, 4% Bitcoin back on every purchase, like, I don't know. There's got to be something going on in here, right? It does say that we're waiting on fee and balance requirements. You will have to have an active paid Coinbase One membership to open the card account, and cardholders' assets held on Coinbase. So you will have to have, you know, there will be, so effectively the way this is going to work. So to read the statement, Bitcoin back reward rates are based on the cardholder's assets held on Coinbase. And we always preach time and time again, get your crypto off of centralized exchanges. And the goal of centralized exchanges is to encourage you, like all banks do, to, get you to put your money in the bank. These centralized exchanges want to get you to keep the crypto on their exchange. Why is that? Well, if the crypto is on their exchange, they control your crypto. You no longer control it. And it allows them to do things like leverage that crypto to earn more rewards in different ways, right? Earn more money, do loans, all this sort of stuff. It enables them to do that. And inevitably in crypto, what's been proven out time and time again is when you give them too much crypto, they always it up and then completely collapse, right? I mean, we could go through tons of different examples of this happening over and over again, even with large exchanges. Keep your crypto off an exchange. This is a direct incentive to try to get you to keep crypto on the exchange. And Coinbase is just in the news for all the wrong reasons today, too. I mean, if you're a Trump supporter, you're probably super upset about this one with Coinbase. Coinbase just hired David Plouffe to work with Chris Lehane, I believe is how it's pronounced. Just goes to show you that Coinbase has no interest in actually working with conservatives, but instead wants to hire and work with the most radical Democrats and Trump haters. David Plouffe was Kamala Harris's senior advisor for her presidential campaign, and he served as Obama's campaign manager. David is a board member of the Obama Foundation, and David leads the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative's policy and advocacy team. This team has helped direct the $450 million in Zuckerberg's Zuckerbucks, there we go, during the 2020 election, which helped Democrats steal the election from President Trump. I don't like narratives like they stole the election, and I don't like narratives like January 6th was a insurrection, right? I don't like these loaded terms and these narratives that people set up. So obviously this has a very slanted perspective on it, but it is important to note that David is working for Coinbase now, and he used to work on the Kamala ticket and the Obama ticket. David bills himself as someone who, quote, brings people together for causes, but he's a divider, one of Obama's top henchmen. He blew $1 billion of donor money to run the worst campaign in U.S. history, and he's also said Donald Trump and his kind need to be eradicated. Here is a quote tweet from him that says, "It's not enough to simply beat Trump. He must be destroyed thoroughly. His kind must not rise again." Freedom of speech. He didn't call for violence here necessarily. I've heard people might argue this is a call to violence. I don't read it as that. I read it as an emotionally charged political post. So I don't think that we should be trying to condemn people and put them in jail for this type of thing. I know that I read in some of the comments, people are like, it's a call to violence, you should go to prison. No, it's not. He didn't say, kill him or anything like that. But still, it shows you his alignment. So it is what it is at the end of the day. It's kind of a weird hire, especially considering the current administration. I would think you would want to stay away from politically charged people when you're trying to influence for crypto positive regulations. And to hire somebody that, worked on campaigns that were vehemently opposed to crypto is concerning in and of itself, right? So it is what it is, right? I think it's clear that they have, other intentions on top of stealing your Bitcoin. It sounds like Coinbase to me would benefit more from regulation surrounding cryptocurrency than not. For obvious reasons, right? I mean, Coinbase is bleeding money in comparison with basically because of Phantom Wallet. As sad as it is to say, Phantom Wallet's on Solana. Solana's a pretty centralized chain. at the end of the day, it's still more decentralized than Coinbase, right? And the Phantom wallet is eating Coinbase's lunch, right? At the end of the day. So just figure I'd bring that up with you guys. I find it to be an extremely odd move from Coinbase. Like I said, considering the fact that you really want to be trying to get the administration to be favorable towards cryptocurrency, and then you're hiring someone who historically has not been favorable towards cryptocurrency, let's sit back and see what happens, right? Let's sit back and see what happens. Now, people are asking again about the Iran situation. We just reacted to that at the beginning of the video. You know, U.S. is pulling out troops, so it really depends on what, you know, the commander-in-chief decides to do in response. I don't know that there's actually an official attack. I haven't seen that yet, but I'll keep looking. What I would say is that it depends on the position in response that, you know, Donald Trump decides to take. If we are going to arm up and go into full-on, you know, war mode and start sending troops and spinning up money, I would assume that the initial response in the markets would be poor, with a long-term recovery just based off of the fact that we are in a military-industrial complex and that any war will stimulate the economy, right? If he decides to stay out of it, and we focus on getting energy prices down in the United States, and there's a bunch of unrest in the Middle East and places, you know, surrounding the Middle East, you know, start mining less and have power issues, and we can take advantage of that. We can definitely start spinning up more Bitcoin mining stateside. We can get energy prices under control, and then we can really dominate that market. I think that that would be fantastic. I don't know if that would, you know, the problem is it's really China that we're competing with for hash rate. So I know there's, like, you know, outside of China, there's stuff kind of bleeding over, whether it's like Kazakhstan or whatever, up towards Russia as well. So I don't know how much of an impact that would have. I do assume that it will have some sort of impact on energy costs, though, right? And so that is that's really, we got to get back to. So if we're dependent on the Middle East for oil still, right? The fact is like that's going to affect energy prices stateside, period, which is going to make it difficult for people to have extra money to invest in crypto, and then the crypto markets have a struggle. You know, there's so much up in the air. How much money goes into the, you know, the pockets of the citizens is really going to determine how, you know, how well the crypto market performs over the next few months, right? And I don't know how much money we're really putting back into the pockets of Americans. This could affect that. To what extent, you know, it's going to depend on the response from Trump, but I assume we're just waiting on that. But Trump I do have a video from Trump. He sent a message to the Coinbase State of Crypto Summit. Now, it's pre-recorded, but I do have that here, and so we can take a look at it. Oh, it's very quiet.
I'm delighted to speak to some of the greatest visionaries and pioneers in the fields of tech.
Hold on. Let me see. I'm having audio issues here. There we are. We're back. Hey, I got to get this Go XLR fixed. The company went under, unfortunately. And anyways, different. This is too quiet. Let's find a different video. So Trump, crypto, Coinbase, can I type Coinbase Crypto Summit. See, I got that. Let's see. Here's one from YouTube. Oh, that was a live stream. So cool. Trump, Coinbase, Crypto Summit. That was March 20th. Oh, was that so that's not even real here, huh? Is this a joke one? Oh, it's AI. I see. Well, I got bamboozled, boys. Trump, Coinbase, Crypto Summit. Is that even a thing then? I got tricked. Good catch. I'm sure we would have listened to it and had a good time.
I'm delighted to.
So what's the joke then?
Crypto Summit. I'm delighted to speak to some of the greatest visionaries and pioneers in the field.
Bitcoin Magazine posted it too.
Who are working to build a future powered by crypto. Many have called me the first crypto president. That's an honor.
The first crypto president.
Big honor, actually. And starting on day one, we ended the Biden administration's war on crypto. It was an absolute war and very unfair. And we unleashed American innovators to do what you do best, lead the world into new frontiers. We ended Operation Choke Point 2.0. I created the first presidential working group on digital assets. I named a pro-freedom, pro-innovation SEC chair, a great man named Paul Atkins, and we created the
I think this is this not real? Seems real. It's really quiet though. It's pretty boring. He's just doing what Trump does.
He also will be working to create clear and simple market frameworks that will allow.
Yeah, this is all stuff we already know.
Of crypto and Bitcoin. Congratulations to everyone at this exciting time in your industry and in our country's life. I wish you all the best of luck.
Yeah, so nothing special. It's all the same stuff. He's still parroting the same things he's been parroting, whether or not it's AI or whatever. But regardless, he's still parroting all the same stuff that he's been parroting for forever, as far as like, oh, I'm the first crypto president and we're going to deregulate, etc. You know, how much of that has actually taken place? It is really hard to tell. I haven't seen like a ton. Like, it's still really hard to get a bank account for a crypto business. So, I mean, like, we can keep hearing that it's going to get better and we're going to deregulate, etc. But until there's actual like things that affect my life directly, like I get a call from my credit union and they're like, "Hey, you can open a bank account now for your crypto business." Until stuff like that starts happening, it's like I don't really believe any of it, right? At the end of the day, and you know, whether that's AI or not, it's not even exciting in the first place. So it's not even like anything crazy is going on. I saw something pretty interesting though. This one is real, but it sounds a little scammy. So maybe I need help understanding the value of things like Cubic, right? So let's talk a little like Cubic. So I'm going to bring up Cubic because this is in relation to a similar business practice that Cubic has. And then we're going to kind of walk through it, right? Because at the end of the day, there appears to be things going on. And I've seen this with multiple different projects, right? It's like you mine a currency, but in some kind of weird way with custom software. You're not like actually, you know, building your own node, mining to it, and then, you know, solving blocks. That's not how it really functions on something like Cubic. And then they enable something. We talked about them enabling like the mining with XMR. And effectively what it seems like is you point your CPUs to Cubic. Cubic then mines XMR. The developer takes the Monero and then burns it or sells it, and then that somehow increases the value of your cubic. I don't know that these are like, and I know it's what, useful proof of work or UPOW or whatever. I don't know that I trust these types of things. And this one is along the same lines, except it's happening with Tau, which is BitTensor. And this is coming from an account called HashTensor, and they're talking about SN16. And so they're saying they're going to transform raw mining power into real world on-chain value. And they're starting it with the Caspa network. Now, this isn't, working with Caspa devs or anything like that. They're doing this on their own, kind of like, Cubic did with Monero. And so they're saying they're going to start by securing the Caspa network, but that's just the beginning. Our infrastructure is designed to scale across multiple blockchains, redirecting mining rewards into the Tensor ecosystem via Tau and SN16. There's another project that I was just working on. We were doing videos on and talking about the, speculative mining it. There's other projects that are doing this as well, where effectively, like, you have an EVM capable, like, the easy way to do it is you have an EVM capable chain, and then you effectively merge mine. But what they're really doing is they're pointing, your hardware at another network, and then they're taking that asset and then folding it into the layer 2 of the chain that you're running. The idea is then you're increasing the value of that chain and adding liquidity to that chain by effectively bridging all of that value from, the original chain. And I assume that's something similar that's going on here as well. So the idea is that miners are incentivized to mine high value proof of work chains like Caspa. All mining rewards will flow back into Tau, so some sort of wrapped Caspa into layer 2 BitTensor, and that's going to be on the SN16's native token. Obviously, that's going to be their secondary layer there, their token layer, and that then it'll be a token alpha, and that'll go through a buy and burn mechanism designed to reduce the supply and amplify long-term value for SN16 alpha token. I always get suspicious as well when things start getting burned and all of that, because obviously, like, burning is it's a manipulation, right? Like, it's a supply manipulation intentional to drive up the price, right? So it says the more value you mine, the higher your score and influence in the subnet. So SN is for subnet, and I think they're going to have multiple ones, by the way, but we can get into SN16 in another video if you guys want to. Really, I'm just bringing this up from the perspective of Caspa mining, etc. So it says this isn't just mining, it's network positive mining designed to create sustainable utility and long-term upside for Tau and alpha holders. We're bridging proof of work with neural consensus, and we're just getting started. Let's mine the future together. So apparently they're going to be releasing the GitHub next week, so I'll report on it when we get to take an actual look at it. And they're saying similar to Model SN14, but for CAS, and he says, it's similar, but we're doing it a little bit different. Remember, so SN stands for subnets. They're secondary layers, effectively, or you could call it depends on. The basics is like it's another, it's a layer on top of BitTensor, and this one's called, SN16. There are other ones as well. So in case you guys aren't aware of like all of that and how that's played out in the past, there are a lot of people accusing them of essentially copying Cubic. And this one was funny. He said, Rowie, _E said, when you order Cubic from TeamU and this arrives. And then, obviously Titan's here saying, how's it different than Cubic? And then, all of that sort of stuff. Early on, I did mine some. I think I have like 10 of them somewhere sitting in a wallet that I don't even know if I can recover at this point, to be completely honest with you. I'm not a big bit tensor guy. I thought it was really interesting early on, but I haven't, it became extremely clear that it was meant for high powered CPUs and I couldn't compete at that point. And I do think that, on the CPU mining front, buying really expensive CPUs is probably the best way to go at the end of the day. Obviously, Epic, something along those lines, because otherwise you just start not being able to compete. I feel like outside of some outliers or whatnot. But I thought I'd bring it up. What do you guys think about it? I don't know. When it's so complicated, so it doesn't understand, it's basically a scam. No, I understand what they're doing. What I don't understand is how that I'm trying to figure out how to explain what I don't understand. No, I understand how it creates value, right? They're just basically dumping liquidity from a network into it and rewarding people for pointing their miners through their subnet, right? So they're saying, point to our subnet. Subham, welcome to stream over on kick.com/BlindRun. We're live on YouTube and Twitch as well, and Twitter, X, formerly Twitter. So you point through their subnet to mine Caspa. They get the Caspa. They pump that into their subnet to increase the value of their subnet, right? They're basically stealing liquidity that the miner would earn. The value of the liquidity on Caspa that the miner would earn, and pumping that into another chain. That's what they're doing. And so effectively what you have is like, this is a way to increase the value of their particular project by taking the value from another chain. Essentially, right? Cubic's doing it. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of that either. And that is also why I think, because what we've seen with Cubic, for example, is that Cubic has very inconsistent rewards. And the reason for those very inconsistent rewards, I think by and large, is due to the fact that those rewards are dependent on whether or not that project is making a profit off of the power that's being provided to the network, right? So that's kind of how it goes. No, I don't trade. I'm a crypto miner, Subam. No trading here. And we're just talking about crypto news and some new projects and stuff like that. Right now, though, we are going to bring up, for the GPU miners in the house, PCI Express 7.0 officially has announced their specifications. So this should be pretty exciting, especially from the perspective of anything with AI involved. After more than 2 decades of continuous evolution, PCI 1.0 came out in 2003. PCI SIG, the standard here, has released PCI Express 7.0 specification. Once again, the new standard doubles the available bandwidth, pushing PCIe to 128 GTs a second. What is GTS again? I always forget. Who's gonna make me look this up? What does it stand for again? It's because it's speed, but I don't remember what. Do you guys know? Tell me here. Oh, gigatransfers per second. There we go. That makes sense. Okay. And up to 512 gigabytes a second in both directions on a full 16 link. It is designed to support the next generation of AI, machine learning, cloud, and quantum computing workloads. To put this in perspective, the industry relied on PCIe 3.0 for nearly a decade. It has been insane. We were on 3.0 forever, and then it was like 4, 5, 6, and now 7. It was like, what the hell just happened? Well, AI happened, right? At the end of the day, what happened was AI happened and we had to innovate. But PCI 3.0 remained the dominant standard across several CPU and GPU generations. 4.0 arrived in 2017, but was only widely adopted across two GPU generations, the AMD 5000, 6000 series and the RTX 30 series. 5.0 has only recently reached mainstream graphics architecture, starting with NVIDIA's 50 series and the 90 series from AMD, along with Intel's atelast CPUs. I believe you can get Gen 5 on AMD as well now, but I don't quote me on that. Delivers 128 gigatransfers a second of raw bitrate and up to 512 gigabytes a second of bidirectionally on BI16. Uses PAM4, which is pulse amplitude modulation with 4 level signaling and FLIT-based encoding. Improved power efficiency and full backward compatibility with previous PCIe generations. While it will likely take many years before 7.0 reaches consumer graphics card, it is already confirmed that work on Gen 8 specification is underway. Typically, AI accelerators, network equipment, and storage devices are the first to adopt new PCIe standards. If you guys don't know, I'm a systems engineer, so I work in the data center. And yeah, the big thing, obviously, number one thing for everybody in the world is going to be networking, is where you really want all the bandwidth first. So that's kind of why it'll hit that networking equipment initially. And so it does say, in fact, there's a little real world performance difference between 4.0 and 5.0 when using full lanes. The impact is more noticeable when fewer lanes are available. So with 7.0 now finalized, development on 8 will start, and we haven't even gotten consumer grade 6.0 yet. But I know like on the, I think some of the newer servers and stuff like that are getting it on their network cards, right? As far as that's concerned. So I'm excited because obviously 512 gigabytes a second bidirectional and BI16 is going to be fantastic. That will, theoretically allow for you to build, more dense systems for AI and farming AI and all that. If that is even a thing in the future, as that AI is becoming dangerously centralized, we'll have to see where that goes, right? So have I seen the new method of placing RAM on the motherboard now? Stupid fast and stupid expensive. No, I haven't. So I guess what was that in, like the latest CES? You're talking about system memory? What would I even search to find that? How to installing memory, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. I'd have to look. I mean, is it similar to like what they did with the GPUs where you just have the one little button that unlocks the GPU now? I know I got that on most of my motherboards. I think even this one on the test bench over here has it. RAM disk on VRAM. Well, remember they had those GPUs they were coming out with for a little bit that had NVMe slots on there, right? So you had a GPU that only required 8 lanes, and so they just added NVMe slots to it so you could add a drive to it and suck up the other, at least another 4 lanes on it, which was pretty cool, except for the fact that most consumers don't need that, right? No, it's a new daughter card and pin connector like a CPU. If you find it, can you tweet at it? Tweet at me at Son of a Tech. I'll happily take a look at it. Always interested in that. Tencent is exploring a new purchase of Nexon, by the way. If you're interested in gaming, this one definitely does relate to crypto. And so there's talks of a potential acquisition for Nexon from essentially Tencent, which is a Chinese company or a holding company. Obviously, Tencent owns a little bit of everything, right? At this point in the gaming space, Tencent owns everybody, a portion of everybody, whether it's, Activision or Riot, etc., right? They're exploring a potential deal, but no concrete terms have been reached, and the deal is not guaranteed, according to Bloomberg. Nexon is the South Korean video game developer behind the MapleStory series, a massively multiplayer online game that first gained popularity in the early 2000s as a traditional PC game. Web3 gaming continues to be closely watched as a use case for blockchain, as the ability to give players ownership over in-game assets could create an entirely new asset class and create tens of billions of dollars in capital. The problem is, in gaming's current iteration, we keep seeing developers obviously release new games after new games, and everything you've earned in the game previously like disappears outside of the outlier of like Fortnite, right? Like there's Fortnite, which you just keep getting the stuff, they don't take anything away, and the game still is as relevant today as when it first started as a battle royale. But outside of that, you know, you see devs constantly removing in-game assets out of your inventory. And so the question is, like, how do you track all that and how do you get to keep it? I know that, you know, there was a lot of talk. What was that project, Thor? I did an interview with that guy. You know, the idea was that you could own in-game assets and then developers could implement those assets into multiple games, and then you could own that asset across, you know, multiple titles. You know, is that something that's going to happen? I don't know. I'm not a big fan of, you know, microtransactions as they currently are. I don't think I'm ever a big fan. I'm a fan of, you know, buying a video game and then getting to earn everything in the video game within the work I'm doing in the video game itself. I don't like external purchases, and I think they're predatory. So I haven't ever been a big proponent of Web3 gaming and ownership over the assets. That being said, like one of the big places I see, you know, Web3 gaming in particular, like NFT ownership on the blockchain being relevant, is a tie to game ownership, right? So where I really see it valuable would being like, let's say you buy GTA 6, a digital version, you get an NFT of that verifies your ownership of that game. And then what would be really cool is if you could then trade that NFT, you know, on a secondary market. Because one of the things that happened with the digital age is that we lost the used market within gaming by and large. And because of that, you don't really have a secondary market. You don't have correcting market prices, you know, with older games, etc. You just kind of have to, you're at the mercy of the developer and the storefronts, you know, the vendors, to drop the price of the game. So I think like it would be really cool to have a marketplace that drives your ownership of digital products with an NFT that you then can create a secondary used marketplace of digital products on. I think that would be really cool. And a consumer-friendly way to implement, you know, NFTs into gaming and digital media. Whereas I think in this particular case, the way MapleStory's been doing it and owning in-game assets, an NFT, I don't think is consumer-friendly. That being said, there is an argument that says, well, they're going to do it anyways, and NFTs for ownership of in-game assets is more consumer-friendly than its current iteration. And I think I would agree with it from that perspective, right? So the company integrated, which is the company they're purchasing and that owns MapleStory, integrated blockchain technology in two different installments of the series, MapleStory N and MapleStory Universe, in May 2025, allowing users to collect in-game items and rewards in the form of non-fungible tokens. So according to a February 2025 report from DApp Radar, blockchain gaming activity surged by roughly 368% year over year in January 2025, driven by games like Off-Grid and the then upcoming MapleStory N. Off-Grid is a AAA shooter published by Gunzilla Games that features console-level graphics and gameplay similar to that of traditional video game blockbusters produced by major game studios. This represented a significant departure from traditional Web3 games that typically feature simple gameplay mechanics, cartoonish graphics, and the focus on player rewards rather than robust Gameplay. Despite the initial spike in player interest that started in late 2024, Web3 gaming activity declined by 10%, reflected by a drop in daily unique active wallets, according to DApp Radar. While the crypto gaming sector remains healthy and titles such as MapleStory and the Off the Grid reflect a shift to higher quality games focused on player experience, Web3 gaming still faces several headwinds. Chief among these impediments to widespread Web3 gaming adoption are the technical barriers to entry of setting up a blockchain wallet and the traditional gaming community's aversion to play to earn games, obviously, which is like my aversion. And yeah, I mean, setting up, I think the latest generation, and with the clear amount of downloads that like Phantom Wallet's getting, I think people are becoming more and more comfortable with crypto wallets than they were in the past. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. John from Kick says, I do remember a video from CES that had flat RAM on the motherboards. Let's see if that's what he's talking about. AFC is saying Cam 2 RAM. So let's go ahead. Let me take a look at this. Cam 2 RAM. I think Corsair has it here. So computer memory comes in a variety of speeds, latencies, and capabilities. So the dominance of DIMMs could be under threat with the introduction of CAM 2. CAM 2 stands for Compression Attached Memory Module version 2. Hinting at the main difference between CAM 2 and DIMM, the way the module physically connects to the motherboard. Essentially, CAM 2's connectors are arranged in a grid, similar to what you'd find on a modern processor, rather than the line of connectors found on a DIMM. Technically, there are two lines of the connectors on a DIMM, but you get the idea. So I guess this is this the picture of it? So these are the individual memory modules, similar to, I guess, how they would be on a DIMM. Is it pressurized, I guess? Can we see the back of it? Pop, 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 pop. The design means CAM 2 memory lies flat parallel to the motherboard instead of perpendicular to it. This has several implications, including more clearance around the CPU socket, much needed, by the way, especially with how much power these CPUs are taking and how hot they get now. You really need beefy coolers, and it's very annoying to get RAM sticks in the way. So I agree there. We expect that motherboard manufacturers will likely include only a single CAM 2 socket on their motherboards, making upgrading less straightforward. You'll have to swap out the entire module to upgrade. However, CAM 2 does feature shorter traces between the CPU and memory chips, which should lead to better signal integrity and therefore should support faster frequencies and lower latencies. That would be good. So really fast systems would want to run this, right? It's kind of like, currently there's always like in a standard ATX form factor, you have 4 DIMM slots, right? But if you want to get the fastest memory in existence, you never want to run all 4 in quad channel. You want to run just 2 in dual channel, and then that allows you to obtain the faster speeds. I would assume that that's kind of similar here. You're probably going to run less capacity, but get really, really fast. And that would be really what you're looking at in this particular case. AFC says, should tank thermals too? I would assume we get hotter. At least, so my problem here is this placement, right? So if this is going to be the proposed placement and you got your socket right here, that means your cooler is going to be going over it, which in theory and if it's running at higher speeds, higher frequencies and lower latencies, these modules are going to get really hot and they're going to be obstructed. So I think, yes, okay, cool. So we have, shorter traces to the CPU. Yes, but you are going to have, I think, hotter thermals. That's what I would presume, right? Assuming the memory modules are still the same that's on like your DRAM as well. I was going to see if there's any pictures out. There's some pictures, but not really Okay, so I wanted a picture of the backside of it. Is there a picture? Okay, so here is... Okay, oh, great. So we're going to have to worry about bending more pins. All I think is, damn, that's a lot of pins to bend. Dude. Like, there, since it's pressure based, you technically don't have to worry about bending them, but well, yeah, I'm talking about like bending them back and forth or them breaking off. Yeah, no, I that would be my initial worry. I assume the backside are just copper of the actual modules themselves, are just copper placement points. That is a good point. So John and Kick says maybe CPU and RAM can use single cooler, and I think that will probably be a cooling product that is available, right? With how close they are together, at least in that original picture that we saw, you could feasibly, extend that heat sink over and adjust for the tolerances and mount to it, and it, like it is here. You could feasibly just build one cooler that crosses over. So that's a good idea. Probably will happen. You're probably correct, I think. Good for catching cat hair too. Yeah, damn cat, dude. I gotta clean out all the PCs at the house too from my cat. It's getting... I don't know why I ended up with a cat. It is what it is. You know what I mean? So AFC is saying that the cooler he saw with Corsair had a massive cooler over it. I was on the main Corsair page, but I didn't see one from it in particular. Exciting stuff, though. I mean, I think that the design looks cool. Here's a whole picture of it, I guess. That's the socket. Okay. Yeah, so what's your capacity limit, right? You're going to have lower capacity, right? You have to? Because the board doesn't seem that big. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What is that? 12 modules, 2 gigabytes each? What? How much does DDR5 go up? Hold on. I think I have... Okay, so it's what, 4 gigabytes per module? This is a 16 gig stick. We have 1, 2, wait, is that right? Or is this an 8 gig? This is an 8 gig stick, which would mean 2, so 2, 4, 6, 8. So that's not good. That'd be 24 so DDR5, or is this DDR4? This is DDR5, right? Yeah, DDR5. So if they're the standard design, that would only be like a 24 gigabyte plate. That's not going to be enough. You need like 4 gigabyte modules. That would give it 48 gigs. That would be enough. Yeah, that would be enough. Okay. What else do you guys want me to look at? I think that's it. We talked shit about Pi, which is good. We talked shit about Israel and Iran. I like to call them Iran. It's the way I feel about it. What was it? 8:37. It's not bad. We're streaming every day. I think this weekend I'll probably take a little bit of time off just to hang out with the kiddos and stuff like that. Tomorrow night, I'll be streaming a little later as well. Let's see if Israel, Iran, is there... Okay, I think I do see something here. 15 minutes ago, says Intel suggests all of Iran's general staff, including the head of military, were eliminated in tonight's strikes on Israel. Or on Iran. By Israel. There we go. Holy shit. Okay. Breaking news, CNN, but let's see.
Israeli official. First, Caitlin, something I just heard from a senior Israeli official who says that according to Israeli assessments, there are very high chances that the entire Iranian general staff, including the head of the Iranian general staff of the Iranian military, and several senior Iranian nuclear scientists were all eliminated in the Israeli strikes tonight. I hear that again from a senior Israeli official.
Okay, great. So we don't have to worry about nuclear weapons from Iran now? Because all the scientists are dead?
Senior top Iranian military commanders, including the head of the general staff of the Iranian military and senior nuclear scientists, have all been targeted in those strikes. And according to IDF assessments, there's a high chance that they've been eliminated.
I mean, that is really striking intelligence, if that is accurate.
First, Caitlin.
If that is accurate. So what's going on then? Let's see. Netanyahu just released a video explaining why he's now bombing Iran. The official language is Israel is Hebrew. So why is he speaking English? Because it's AI?
Israel launched Operation Rising Lion.
Not because it's AI. It's because they want to communicate to Americans to get us to send them our tax dollars.
A targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. This operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat. For decades, the tyrants of Tehran have brazenly, openly called for Israel's destruction. They've backed up their genocidal rhetoric with a program to develop...
Why does everybody want to go around calling each other genocidal and then trying to genocide the other side? They're genocidal, so we must kill them. I'm just saying it's funny.
Nuclear weapons. In recent years, Iran has produced enough highly enriched uranium
Bitcoin's
for 9 atom bombs. 9.
75K, here we come.
Iran has taken steps that it has never taken before. Steps to weaponize this enriched uranium. And if not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year. This is a clear and present danger.
I hate these narratives, dude. Every single time they want us to go to war, it's like, this country's about to get weapons of mass destruction, and it presents a clear and dangerous, whatever, clear and present danger. Like, does anybody else have WMD fatigue? I mean, it's been my whole life. It's just different people in charge trying to convince me that I need to spend they need to spend all my tax dollars on some invasion.
To Israel's very survival. 80 years ago, the Jewish people were
It just
the
makes me
victims
not believe
of
it.
a Holocaust perpetrated by the Nazis.
This again? Like, bro, that was... Dude, that was like 60 years ago. That was like 70, 80 years. That was forever ago. Are we going to keep playing the victim? Is that what we're going to do? Every single time we're going to be like, and this thing happened to us 150 years ago.
Nazi regime. Today, the Jewish state refuses to be a victim of a nuclear holocaust perpetrated by the Iranian regime. Now, as Prime Minister,
A nuclear.
I've made it clear time and again. Israel
I just don't believe any of this. Am I just old and cynical and unempathetic? Maybe. It's just
will never allow those who call for our annihilation to develop the means to achieve that goal. Tonight, Israel...
It's not World War III. I mean, maybe it is. But, like, who's going to fight? Everybody's on Ozempic and SSRIs, brother.
Backs those words with action. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear enrichment program. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear weaponization program. We targeted Iran's main enrichment facility in Natanz. We targeted Iran's...
Yes, I'm saying they're all admittedly fat and mentally ill. Like, who's gonna, like... Like, it would be the lamest world war ever, dude.
Leading nuclear scientists working on the Iranian bomb. We also struck at the heart of Iran's ballistic missile program. Last year, Iran fired...
Atomic weapons don't really even scare me that much anymore. I know you said we made, like, making the joke about Japan, but, like, at least you're just dead right away. Like, what terrifies me is, like, those Ukrainian, Russian standoffs with, like, trench warfare and drones. That's what terrifies me, dude. But damn, I'm glad I'm in IT, because I know at least if it comes down to that, I can be behind a computer flying the drone with my Xbox controller.
Fired 300 ballistic missiles at Israel. Each of these missiles carries a ton of explosives and threatens the lives of hundreds of people. Soon, those missiles could carry a nuclear payload, threatening the lives not of hundreds, but of millions. Iran is gearing up to produce 10,000 of those ballistic missiles within 3 years. Now just imagine.
Is that even possible? 10,000 ballistic missiles in 3... not atomic ballistic missiles, though. Just the missile part, right?
Imagine 10,000 tons of TNT landing on a country the size of New Jersey. This is an intolerable threat.
It just feels like fear-mongering.
Too must be stopped. Iran is now working on what it calls the new plan to destroy Israel. You see, the old plan failed. Iran and its proxies tried to encircle Israel with a ring of fire and to attack us with the horrible attack of October 7th. But the people of Israel, the soldiers of Israel,
October
rose
7th
like
was
lions to
crazy.
defend our country. We crushed Hamas, we devastated Hezbollah, we hit Iranian proxies in Syria and Yemen. And when Iran directly attacked us twice last year, we struck back inside Iran itself. Yet in defending ourselves, we also defend others. We defend our Arab neighbors. They too have suffered from Iran's campaign of chaos and carnage. Our actions against Iran's proxy Hezbollah led to the establishment of a new government in Lebanon and the collapse of Assad's murderous regime in Syria. The peoples of those two countries now have a chance for a different future, a better future. So too do the brave people of Iran, and I have a message for them. Our fight is not with you. Our fight is with the brutal dictatorship that has oppressed you for 46 years. I believe that the day of your liberation is near. And when that happens, the great friendship between our two ancient peoples will flourish once again.
I don't know, do you think it's possible? Like, whenever I hear this kind of talk and it's like, it'll be soon, and then what's the idea there? Like, Israel defeats Iran and puts in some new government establishment. And then I think about like how fast people thought Russia was just going to roll over Ukraine, and that hasn't ended at all. And then I feel like Iran's a lot bigger of a threat than Ukraine would be. And I just don't know if that's like, I feel like this is just going to turn into it's going to remain, I should say, a never-ending conflict.
I want to assure the
mobile chemical weapon laboratories.
We will not.
Yeah, I mean, pandemic, right?
Not let the world's most dangerous regime get the world's most dangerous weapons. And Iran plans to give those weapons, nuclear weapons, to its terrorist proxies. That would make the nightmare of nuclear terrorism all too real. The increasing range of Iran's ballistic missiles would bring that nuclear nightmare to the cities of Europe and eventually to America.
We're going to get a missile all the way from Iran to the U.S. I don't know. I mean, we got the Golden Dome going in place. We're all good, right?
Remember, Iran calls Israel the small Satan. It calls America the great Satan. And this is why for decades, it's led millions in the chants of death to Israel and death to America. Today, Israel is responding to those genocidal calls with action and with a call of our own.
So this
Long live Israel.
This is just Israeli propaganda to get America to help, isn't it?
Long live America. Our action will help make the world a much safer place. I want to thank President Trump for his leadership in confronting Iran's nuclear weapons program. He has made clear time and again that Iran cannot have a nuclear enrichment program. Today, it is clear that Iran is just buying for time. It refuses to agree to this basic requirement of peaceful nations. That is why we have no choice.
Yeah, you're right, Tin Man. It's spooky language. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, for me as a millennial and like waking up, you know, to the Twin Towers and that sort of stuff, it just feels like it's hard not to be like, I guess, numb to the whole, all of this machine of propaganda that comes out over and over and over again, right? Because it is like, it's just been my entire life. It's stuff like this over and over again.
Act now. The hardest decision any leader has.
And I think it's also hard to sell the American people on this too, because like the fact is like things are just not going that well here. And like we have other things to worry about, like keeping jobs and buying groceries.
To make is to thwart a danger before it is fully materialized. Nearly a century ago, facing the Nazis, a generation of leaders failed to act in time. They were paralyzed by the horrors of World War I.
Yeah, yeah, this is
They were determined to avoid war.
This whole speech is directed at the U.S. population, 100%. This is not to the world. This is not to the Israeli people. This is to U.S. citizens. This is to us. You know, if you're not from the U.S., yeah, I get it. But it's to me and you know, my people.
At all costs. And they got the worst war ever. They adopted a policy of appeasement. They closed their eyes and ears to all the warning signs. That failure to act resulted in World War II, the deadliest war in...
So, it's like... We're just doing this. We're just going to keep going back to like... It's like everybody wants us to just always focus on the atrocities of World War II, and like we're going to use it. It's like it's used as an argument to get people to do things that other people want to do. What is it? It's an appeal to, I don't know. I forgot the name, but it's always this appeal to empathy and, you know, justice or whatever based on World War II. It's like it's never like what's happening right now. It's like we're going to compare everything to World War II. We're going to compare the conservatives to the Nazis. It's like it's exhausting, dude.
In history, it claimed the lives of 60 million, including 6 million Jews, a third of my people. After that,
it's not just that they're speaking English, David. It's that he's specifically saying, like, so in this speech, he specifically stated that eventually the nuclear ballistic missiles will be able to reach the U.S.
War, The
It's
Jewish
pretty
people
clear
and the Jewish
he's
state
addressing
vowed,
us.
never again. Well, never again is now. Today, Israel has shown that we have learned the lessons of history. When enemies vow to destroy you,
I had a bad thought. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't even say my intrusive thoughts. But like, it kind of feels like they're like, I'm trying to think of the best way to say it. Let's see. Maybe my example's pretty rough, but like it's like they continue. It's like they continuously play the victim based off of something that happened that wasn't even within their generation, right? Over and over and over again, and they want everybody to feel bad for them. But the people that were around that suffered the atrocities aren't even alive today anymore. I don't know. I think you can draw the parallel to what I'm talking about.
believe them. When enemies build weapons of mass death, stop them.
But it's
As the Bible
professional victims, right? It's exhausting.
teaches us, when someone comes to kill you, rise and act first. This is exactly what Israel has done today. We have risen like lions to defend ourselves. Over 3,000 years ago, Moses gave the people of Israel a message that has steeled their resolve ever since. Be strong and courageous, he said. Today, our strong and courageous soldiers and people
Obviously, though, we should get rid of the weapons of mass destruction for sure.
stand together to defend ourselves against those who seek our destruction. And by defending ourselves, we defend many others, and we roll back.
They will believe it, 10. And I'm sure in the comments later, I'm going to get a bunch of people that are super mad that I just don't even take it serious. That I'm not taking it seriously enough, right?
A murderous tyranny.
Did you hear we have army troops on the moon, Kontak?
Generations from now, history will
Israel
record
has space
that our
lasers. We
generation
have
stood its
bases
ground,
on the moon.
acted in time, and secured our common future. May God bless Israel. May God bless the forces of civilization everywhere. Thank you.
And I'm not saying October 7th wasn't bad, by the way. I'm just saying it feels like a lot of propaganda to get me to send them my taxes. I think this dude's face, and then just no. No. Look, I think we just let the two guys in the bar that we don't know fight and we leave. I think that's the best plan. You know? That's what I think we should do. And build our golden dome. Okay, we're going to have to be careful on Twitter today, huh? What else is going on, boys? Let me see if there's anything cool going on, see if anybody linked anything to me. I think we covered that. Oh, no! Okay, yeah. We have an announcement from the White House, apparently. Statement from the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. Tonight, Israel took a unilateral action against Iran. We are not involved in strikes against Iran. And our top priority is protecting American forces in the region. Hell yeah, I like this. Okay. Israel advised us that they believe this action was necessary for its self-defense. President Trump and the administration have taken all necessary steps to protect our forces and remain in close contact with our regional partners. Let me be clear, Iran should not target U.S. interests or personnel. I mean, the thing is like, you know how like 9/11 happens and then they implement the Patriot Act, but you can kind of tell that they were already ready to implement the Patriot Act. Like this feels like they're already prepared to go to war with Iran, and this is just like, oh, we're totally not going to do it unless frustrating to watch, because on the 18th day after the attack, I was watching I-24 News and they had Israel General on, and he did not deny that higher up people knew about the imminent attack. There's so much smoke and, you know, distractions surrounding all those things that happen. As far as like the towers go, I mean, I think it's pretty clear. We know now that was a lot of people were aware of what was going to happen. And I'm sure everybody's aware of what's happening here too. You know, like this doesn't just, it's not like this just happened today. And who knows how much of a, you know, there's a lot going on right now though, right? Like everything with the LA riots, and now this is happening, and it begs the question, like what else, what else is actually going on? I think a lot of it's to, you know, I think a lot of the LA riots and stuff is a way in which they can convince everybody that we need to have the Palantir database system. Because I think at the end of the day, the hardest people to convince on that would be the conservatives. So I think like it's a good excuse to convince conservatives to, you know, give up their privacy for a system like that. It's like, oh, well, we got to get rid of the illegals. The best way to do that is, you know, track